Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for this new edition of Business Africa. Today in our program we'll cover the challenges of biodiversity and the impact of elections in Botswana and Mozambique. We'll talk with Carmelisa Rosario, researcher at the CMI in Norway. But first, let's get on with the show with our top stories today. African beers are a great success story. Entrepreneurs are launching microbreweries to attract new consumers.
In terms of the beer quality, you can observe in this glass that we have a beer which has undergone 7 days of fermentation and 14 days of maceration. From this point, we achieve a nice blonde and clear color.
Soilless farming is becoming increasingly popular in Africa, and Côte d'Ivoire is one of the pioneers.
This cultivation technique solves several problems. Firstly, it's accessible to the whole population. It's easy to practice, it solves the soil problem, and it can be practiced anywhere.
Protecting the trees in a forest in the Madagascar highlands while providing economic prospects, this is the mission of NGOs working in partnership with local communities.
So we delivered some training in producing young plants and signed production contracts with them. Moreover, we provide them with fruit tree seedlings as this improves their income.
Beer in Africans, as you may know, share a long common history. It is even said that brewing beers began 4,000 years ago in Ethiopia. These first beers were made from sorghum, but today millet, barley and even sweet potatoes or bananas are also used. The continent has several venerable beer brands, and Western groups have been established there for a long time. But that does not prevent Africa from experiencing a real brewing revolution, with new entrepreneurs eager to make their creations known to customers. Example in Cameroon with this audacious microbrewery which seeks to promote its Rocks beer. This is a report by Maxime Faralbunia. Built on a land surface of approximately 20,000 square meters, the Swiss African premium beverage brewing factory, the SAPB, boasts a proud appearance. We are in the town of Misole, less than 5 kilometers from the capital, Douala. Launched in 2019, the project materialized after 5 years of development. Inside the factory, thousands of bottles are stored in racks. They have been redirected here to be repackaged before being refilled. Constant, the head of the packaging department, and his team are hard at work. First, they send the bottles to the cleaning and disinfection area, then refill the beer, the Rocks, a Swiss quality beer with a Cameroonian spirit. But first, the bottles must undergo the electronic candling stage. This involves removing bottles that are unsuitable for filling for various reasons.
Arriving at the structure level, there are 3 machines in one. Right, here it is. 3 machines inside the structure. In this machine, there's a rinsing unit. Its function is to take the bottle, turn it upside down, and throw an injection of water inside to expel all sorts of foreign bodies and residues that have not been seen or removed. Then, it goes to filling. At this level, it undergoes what is called back pressure. It is the back pressure that ensures that the bottle product, following the sealing with the cap, can contain the product.
A cleverly devised mechanism consisting of suitable equipment to maintain constant production.
In terms of the beer quality, you can observe in this glass that we have a beer which has undergone 7 days of fermentation and 14 days of maceration. From this point, we achieve a nice blonde and clear color. Here again, it is a young beer. After this stage, we will filter the beer and send it for the filtered stages, and then we will have a finished beer.
In the room next doors, we discover the internal kitchen of the SAPB. This well-equipped laboratory is supervised by a woman, Jeremine Pagot. Using her safety equipment, Jeremine handles the samples to obtain a quality product.
Together with the other members of the laboratory team, we ensure daily compliance with raw material requirements, products in the manufacturing pool, and finished products. So, following a well-established control program, we systematically control raw materials in the laboratory and in process and finished products.
This is a type of microbrewery. Swiss promoter, passionate about beer, and having studied the Cameroonian market for 10 years, claims to have set the objective of offering a better beer made with local expertise. Currently, the factory employs nearly 500 people who participate in the production of 12,000 hectolitres since its launch in June 2024, and the ambitions remain high.
If possible, within 1 to 2 years, I would like to reach the maximum capacity of 50,000 hectoliters. Therefore, the more the business grows, the more employees I will need to hire.
In just 4 months, some consumers are already won over.
As Cameroonians, we already know that premium beers, generally imported, are quite small in quantity. And we have noticed that Rocks, which is a 0.50 liter beer, in terms of quantity and price, is better than the others. I must admit that I'm not a savvy beer consumer. It was recommended to me, and I enjoyed it because it is light. This is not the first time I've seen it. I believe it's the third time. It does not give you a headache. You wake up the next day without a hangover.
But then, what is motivating this new brewing venture to engage in a market characterized by aggressive competition? We asked an expert on economic issues.
The economic and marketing strategies chosen by the company are coherent with the market. It is neither the policy of exclusive distribution nor the policy of intensive distribution, but rather the policy of selective distribution. This is why we target snack selling outlets. We avoid supermarkets, and perhaps we could consider entering in some bar or lounges.
This is a marketing strategy with a significant social impact.
I take an example. We're going to organize an event for the town or chiefdom within the geographical area of intervention of the company. Well, it is normal that we submit, for instance, a sponsorship proposal. Thus, when the company provides cases of beer, gives a donation, or supplies equipment related to the branding of the event site, it's a way for us to make a distribution to the community.
Cameroon is a country with a high consumption of brewed products. Here, the market is dominated by large companies such as Cameroon Breweries, the new name for the former SABC. This company has been present in Cameroon for 76 years and now controls 94% of the local market share after acquiring the assets of Guinness Cameroon. In second place is the Cameroonian Breweries Union, the UCB, with its famous beer, Taji. All these brewing companies have set out to conquer the market in the Central African sub-region. In Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed told lawmakers the country will double its revenue goal to $12.5 billion in 2024-2025 fiscal year. Ethiopia has agreed to a $3.4 billion IMF lending program this summer that sets conditions to reform the economy. In order to capture more revenue, the country is introducing new taxes, including value-added tax on banking services, property taxes, and an excise tax on telecommunication services. This comes as the National Bank of Ethiopia steps up its protection of forex reserves by tightening rules for foreign investors seeking to repatriate profits, dividends, earnings from sale of company shares, and proceeds of liquidation. In South Africa, investors have been left disappointed by the recent economic figures. They show the fiscal deficit is expected to widen to 5% of the gross domestic product in the year through March. Still, since the new alliance took office in June after the election, there has been some improvement in the energy shortfall and logistics constraints that strained businesses. The government said it is evaluating various options to encourage private investment in infrastructure projects including developing a platform with a credit guarantee facility. New financing mechanisms are also under consideration. Across Africa, a new form of agriculture is gaining ground, soilless farming. The principle is simple: grow crops using residues from agriculture, the agro-industry and even household trash or from landfill sites. This solution is proving popular in several countries as a response to land scarcity, soil erosion and deforestation. Such an example can be found in Côte d'Ivoire, where a group of enthusiasts have taken up the challenge of soilless planting and have adapted it to the production of Big Sun, the famous sweet-smelling pepper. Report by Ma Camara at Grand Bassam. On today's menu, Sumbara leaf sauce, a famous hot sauce made from spinach leaves and manioc. This chili pepper is known as Big Sun, or le piment sambon in French, the sweet-smelling chili. Famous for its spicy aroma and flavor, the sweet-smelling chili is still a bestseller in Côte d'Ivoire. This is the sweet-smelling chili. In Côte d'Ivoire, you can't cook without a nice-smelling chili sauce, and it's used to spice up the food and give flavor to the sauce. The chili pepper, with this nice smell, almost everyone in Côte d'Ivoire uses it, despite its high price and the fact that it is hard to get in the market. This is the yellow chili, it's not the same. This is the one that smells good. It's mixed, you can see it. This is the real one, the sweet-smelling chili. You see, it's tiny, like this. It's when there's a shortage that the price goes up. There are buckets sold at 8,000, 10,000, other buckets at 12,000 PFA francs. Often, the price of a bucket goes up to 15,000 to 20,000, depending on the period. As the price of raw material goes up, so does the price of the bucket. So how can we make this much sought-after ingredient available to everyone at a lower cost?
Côte d'Ivoire first prison.
Turning this colonial prison into an agricultural farm is the vocation of these teachers in the seaside town of Grand Bassam. Peppers planted in sacks, here the fruit grows out of the ground. The aim is to disseminate this technique in order to achieve self-sufficiency in food crops in Côte d'Ivoire, mainly the sweet-smelling chilies.
In the old days, a space was set aside for prisoners to grow crops in a field to feed themselves. But we don't do it the same way. They used to plant in the open ground. It's very exhausting. They put in a lot of effort.
The initiator of this technique is Justin Keith. He explains the motivation behind his eco-responsible growing system, which uses materials salvaged from the city's rubbish bins and landfill sites. There's no need for fertile soil here. The benefits are plenty. The farmer doesn't have to crouch down. The fruit doesn't rot in contact with the soil. And finally, water savings.
This cultivation technique solves several problems. Firstly, it's accessible to the whole population. It's easy to practice, it solves the soil problem, and it can be practiced anywhere on flagstone, as long as there's a space where you can put the pots, bags and sacks.
By dint of promotion, Justin managed to convince several people, including this retired teacher. He's now one of Justin's companions in popularizing this form of agriculture. Various vegetables such as eggplants, onions and tomatoes will be grown in these greenhouses, a practice that can be adapted to all staple crops.
We grow this crop because we see a lot of advantages. A lot of benefits. First of all, it's entrepreneurship for young people and even for the population as a whole, especially women, because it's market gardening that we generally do. And we also have the upside of providing local people with organic products, which can help improve their health. And at a lower cost, because we use recycled materials that are less expensive for us. We also have a big mission to supply the canteens with products, since we are the teachers, and that the canteens are becoming more and more permanent with the withdrawal of the World Food Programme. We feel that the canteens could be well provided thanks to this project.
The fertilizer is compost made from dead leaves and food scraps buried in the soil for several weeks. Between 5 and 7 tons of fruit and vegetables are expected to come out of these bags yearly and distributed through a local network. Are you seeking to boost your business in Africa and Europe? Increase your visibility with Business Frequency thanks to our network of national television channels in more than 40 countries. Every week, more than 100 broadcasts across Africa, the Indian Ocean and Europe. Don't miss this unique opportunity. Contact us now and put your brand into the spotlight. Welcome back to the second part of our show. There are complicated times ahead for Mozambique. The country recently held a presidential election in a tense climate amid accusations of fraud. The official results showed the ruling party extending its 49-year-old on power and its presidential candidate Daniel Chapo winning 71% of the votes cast last month. Independent candidate Venancio Mondlane came second, but he has dismissed the outcome as fraudulent. What consequences will these developments have on the stability of a country rich in gas resources but very fragile? To find out more, I'm joined from Oslo in Norway by the expert Carmelisa Rosario, researcher at the CMI. Carmelisa Rosario, hello, and thank you for joining me on Business Africa. So what does the election outcome mean for the stability of Mozambique?
Well, this election outcome, more the controversy around the outcome than the outcome in itself, and the fact that we cannot trust the results, is not good for the stability of the country. We already had a run of instability last year, but it's not surprising. But people are on the streets. They will continue to be on the streets, as it looks like for now, until some kind of satisfactory result comes out of it. What is satisfactory is still unknown, but what is important is people want to be heard. The youth wants to be heard. The middle class has joined in. Several professional classes have joined in. We have seen some leeway and some change in the police attitudes, but it is very class-based. So they have been showing restraint around the middle classes, some of the middle classes, but they have been very violent towards the poorer classes in the rural areas. And because we have an internet ban or restriction, it's very difficult to know exactly what is going on. But the medical class is reporting and the lawyers are reporting and supporting. So we have some information coming up.
What are the main obstacles to economic growth?
So interestingly enough, before the discovery of the gas or the official announcement of how big they were, we were on a path of growth. We have internal and external reasons for this. So the external reasons is that there is a recession. There has been a recession in the world. And of course, Mozambique as a poor country has been affected. The second reason is probably because of these discoveries, the boom has created this illusion that we will have something to pay off that. So we have become severely indebted. And in that sense, and we have a major scandal, which is the hidden debts. And this has created an additional stress on top of the international economic stress that we have. Now we have this insurgency in the north of the country, and that has delayed even more any projections for the gas production. And we are too much dependent economically, or we have had this strategy of being too much dependent on these extractive industries. And of course, that is not good for the economy. We import everything, we produce very little. So it is that this strategy is not working, definitely, for our growth and development.
Then what should be the way forward for the country? Is it industrialization?
Mozambique is not a country that is not industrialized. Mozambique is a country that has been de-industrialized. So the structural changes really created havoc in our economy. And part of it was destroying the industries that we already had. So industrialization is important, of course, but one of the things that economists have been saying in our country is that an agro-industry is the most important that we have, that we would have to have. So we need to take agriculture seriously. We need to make sure that that our producers, the households that are producing, are productive and they are able to feed themselves, but also produce for the country. Another thing would be diversification of the economy. So we have to be less dependent on imports. We need to be more self-sufficient. You need to have reserves in dollars, and of course that is not suitable for a poor economy. So more self-sufficiency, less import, and of course continuing with our exports, and really not being dependent on these extractive industries. If anything, make the extractive industries work better for us. So more of a Norwegian model, I would say, in which the extractive industries would feed a fund that then would go to the benefit of the Mozambican people.
Carmelisa Rosario, thank you very much. And meanwhile, in Botswana, President Mogwitsi Masisi conceded defeat in the parliamentary election. This ends the Botswana Democratic Party's hold on power maintained since the country's independence. This turning point coincides with a slump in prices for diamonds. Since they were discovered by De Beers, the gems have made Botswana one of Africa's richest nations, but at the cost of a strong economic dependence. The declining prices of diamond have negatively affected government revenue. The COP16 Biodiversity Summit ended abruptly with a mixed result earlier this month in Colombia. The 16th United Nations Conference of the Parties did indeed achieve a historic agreement for strengthened status for indigenous peoples in biodiversity negotiations. But it was also the theatre of tensions over financing. The aim was to mobilize at least $200 billion per year from public and private sources. However, only 163 million in commitments have been recorded so far, and many countries haven't even submitted their plans to reach biodiversity goals. Countries opposed a dedicated biodiversity fund that Africa and Brazil in particular were calling for. They did, however, adopt the creation of a fund that will collect contributions from companies using digitized genetic data from plants and animals. And precisely to show you an example of biodiversity in action, let's now head for central Madagascar. In that region, the Tapia trees of the highlands are being felled on a massive scale for firewood and charcoal production. However, if well preserved, the Tapia forest, which is habitat of the Landibe, a wild silkworm, can benefit the local economy. NGOs have undertaken a participatory approach in coordination with the local community to improve not only biodiversity but also the quality of life of local residents through the revitalization of the silk industry. This is a report by Vanessa Rakoto-Malala. Take a look.
In this small village, 48 kilometers west of the capital Antananarivo, this man juggles between his job as a bicycle repairer and his commitment to protecting the Tapia forest. As a supervisor, he controls 400 hectares of this forest.
Despite regular surveillance, people still hide in the forest to cut Tapia trees. We continue to keep an eye on them and stop them.
Selofo took on the responsibility of protecting the Tapia forest 20 years ago. The forest that experts now describe as threatened by the need for wood in urban areas and by the actions of neighboring communities seeking to improve their daily lives. To help restore the forest while improving living conditions, Selofo has developed a tree nursery business. Planète Urgence, an NGO, mainly buys tapia, eucalyptus, acacia and fruit trees. Associations, churches and local citizens are also customers, especially during reforestation periods when demand remains high.
If there's a customer, I sell a fir, eucalyptus or acacia plant for around 7.5 euro cents and oranges for about 75 euro cents. As for tapia, the price varies between about 5 euro cents and 30 euro cents, which helps us significantly.
In 2013, the French NGO Planète Urgence, in partnership with local associations, set up the Tapia project to encourage reforestation and protect the forest. The program currently has 8,000 direct beneficiaries. Out of these, 4,000 are school children involved in environmental activities, 3,500 are members of grassroots communities, and 500 are engaged in economic development. According to the project manager from Planète Urgence NGO, forestry also contributes to the region's socio-economic development by being a source of income for the local population.
So we delivered some training in producing young plants and signed production contracts with them. Moreover, we provide them with fruit tree seedlings as this improves their income.
These endemic trees, characterized by their thick bark, are home to the landibe, a wild silkworm that feeds mainly on their leaves. Emilian, a 53-year-old mother of one who has been a member of the grassroots community since childhood, has developed her knowledge in silk production, enabling her to increase her revenues.
This project is beneficial for the community, especially with the silkworms. It keeps the tapia forest in good condition because that's where the worms live. For example, a silk scarf can cost between 6 and 10 euros.
In 2023, the Planète Urgence NGO and local communities have planted 111,000 tapia trees and 85,800 fruit trees as part of its activities.
We want to put all our efforts into regreening and involving the communities at the grassroots level so that they become the leading players in managing their natural resources.
The tapia forests are the only primary forest in the highlands of Madagascar, covering 131,000 hectares of the country. The government has been transforming them into protected areas to preserve this natural heritage, and this plan is currently in its final stages.
Well, that's it for today. Business Africa is over. I'll see you next week, same time, same channel. For Initiative Africa, we'll host the French-Senegalese director Mati Diop. In the meantime, you can watch this show on our website, africaonair.com, and follow us on our social media channels. Feel free to share, like, and comment using the hashtag Business Africa. Have a great week, and until next time, goodbye.